Well, Mrs. Everard, painting 1,000 plants is something of a task. How do you set about it?
In the first place, live plants were sent to me from Kew in plastic bags. I also used plants from my garden, my own tropical paintings and my own botanical paintings.
When did you make the tropical paintings?
I made those out in Malaya 20 years ago. We went out in 46 and we landed on the rubber estate. We landed into the Malayan emergency, and I was behind bars, more or less, with 24 Malay police to guard me, and I had nothing to do. So I started painting the plants around me, my own common gardening, hibiscus, bougainvillea, and then I turned my attention to orchids. Made quite a collection of orchids.
Had you had any previous training in painting?
No, I was just an amateur artist, enjoying myself, happy, you know. And I just made this collection for something to do. Brought it home to England, showed them at the Royal Horticultural Society, and got my gold medal.
Oh,
yes.
What I enjoyed about the book is a way in which it's laid out, not only your lovely illustrations, but there's an index of botanic names, then there's an index of common names, and I find names like running postman, Hottentot's backside, and silver sword.
Yes, silver sword. That's the thing that grows in the volcano on the ground. It's a very big crater, Mauna Loa, in Hawaii. Yes, and nobody really knows anything about it. There's only a dried herbarium specimen at Kew, no painting, and so we simply had to rely on a botanist's description of it, a Dr. Hegener, actually, and eventually we had to write out to him and for his confirmation that our colours were right.
What appeals to me about the book is that it's not just a whole mass of Latin names and jargon, botanical jargon that I can't understand. And I was looking up one plant that I have seen growing in New Zealand, that is the flax. Mm-hmm. And I was interested in what was said about it. It says, for example, that these fibres were extensively used by the Maoris before the colonisation of New Zealand by Europeans for making clothes and cord. Their quality excited the admiration of Sir Joseph Banks on Captain Cook's first voyage, immediately after landing in New Zealand in 1769, being, as he said, of a strength so superior to hemp, shining almost as silk and surprisingly strong. Hence J.N.R. G. Forster gave the genus the name Formium, from the Greek a mat or a plant used for mat making. And it's the little notes like that yes, I find in the text make it more than just a botanist's book, doesn't it?
I think that people will find the text a mine of information.
You use watercolours.
Yes.
Do you begin by making a pencil sketch?
I always make my first drawing of every painting I have ever done on tracing paper first. I make my mistakes on that tracing paper so that I get my series of drawings. Say it's a botanical painting. At this moment I'm doing a painting of the beach.
Yes.
Well, way back when it was flowering, I made my drawing and put that on. Now I've been doing the fruits and so on. I get them exactly placed.
Yes.
Instead of a lot of pencil lines all over
yes.
the place, you see, I get them exactly placed where I want them so that it's clean. I black this on the other, and then draw through. But I do wonder whether other botanical artists do that. And I think perhaps I'm letting out one of my trade secrets.
Some people would say, why not colour photographs? What can you do in a painting that a photographer can't do?
The detail. The detail drawing.
Yes.
The roots. My job is simply to put the plant down on paper as it is for a botanist who is holding that plant in his hand to identify.
Amongst the 1,001 plants that you painted, Mrs. Everard, are there any ones that you specially enjoyed doing, your favourites?
Oh yes, some that were given to me by a dear old Chinese nurseryman on my very last trip through Singapore, and before I got on the P&O boat home. He gave me this enormous bunch, just as if it was a bunch of daisies. It was just orchids. Rachnus, Vandas, and among them was the most beautiful spray of Renanthera coccinea, which in its natural state grows 80 feet up a jungle tree, and then you don't see it flowering. It flowers right at the top. But these were just a sort of hedge in his nursery. Yes.
And that's the one
I painted these orchids right through to Aden.
And that's the one you've used on the frontispiece?
Yes, that is from one of my old paintings done 20 years ago.